Hello everyone and welcome to Trending in My Life. This week's podcast is episode 44 and I'm going to title it Life Lessons because that's what my week has been about. I've been on a staycation from work and doing lots of different things. It's been lovely to have the freedom to go anywhere I want and do anything I want without that schedule, that agenda that I have to be here at this time and there at that time, and sort of trying to squeeze in my life around my work. So I've thoroughly enjoyed my week. It's a happy week for me. So what lessons have I learned? Let's see. First of all, my staycation from work started with Easter, and to me my official sort of days of my vacation didn't start till the Tuesday because that's when everyone else was going back to work and I wasn't. So it felt special not to have to go to work on the Tuesday. And because of that, I planned a day trip out of London to a beach. Now, I picked a place that I'd never been to before on the south coast of England, and it was called Bognor Regis. Now, I'd actually read a travel book by a chap years and years ago, and he was travelling all the way around the coast of England, and he'd been to this place and he'd said that it's not really advertised as a very terrific resort that you can visit, and he said it's a shame because it's a really nice seaside town and has all the elements that you would look for in that. So ever since, it's been in the back of my head rattling around, one day I'll go there. And when I looked at the trains, I could get there in about an hour and 20 minutes from South London. So I thought, yeah, I'm going to do that. I'm going to plan that for the proper first day of my vacation. So I got on a train, and as we were travelling along, I thought, how many stops? Good grief, there's so many stops. And I actually counted on the way back, and I think there was about 17 stops on the train. And I felt, because there were such a lot of them, I felt that I was a long, long, long way from London and from home. And it's silly because it was a day trip. I was going to be back in London anyway, but I actually, during the time that I was there, I actually missed being in London. And I guess this is because, like many cities, they have a lot of things you can do in them. You know, travel from place to place is fairly easy, and there's lots of things to do. I have a friend, Michelle, hi Michelle, who says she never has to leave her city of Vancouver in Canada because she has everything on the doorstep. And she's very, very, very right in saying that. I mean, they have mountains, but equally they have beaches and everything in between. So, I mean, that's a very happy thing to feel, and to be completely satisfied in where you live and that you can get to and enjoy anything you want to in your own city. I don't quite feel that way about London because that's why I was escaping to a beach, because I wanted to feel, to have lots of seagulls in the air and to have waves breaking on a beach and to paddle in the sea. But I do think London has an awful lot going for it and a lot of different activities that you can do. I did a video where I went to North London, and there was a beach sort of on a lake, but it was all man-made, and there was something about the fact that it didn't feel like a normal beach, and I can't explain why, but it didn't. Anyway, getting back to my day trip. Okay, one of the lessons I learnt on that day trip was I felt a long, long way away from home, and I missed being back in London, so that when I came home that same evening, I actually appreciated my city where I live a lot more. So that was a life lesson. Sometimes you take for granted things in your hometown, your home city, your environment, wherever you live, and it's only when you go away from it that you think about that, and it makes you appreciate it more when you come back. What I also learnt was sometimes, I just explained why I went to this particular seaside town. And I did Google what kind of beach it was, because there are a lot of beaches around the coast of England that aren't just sand. Some of them are a yellowy sand, some of them are a red sand, some beaches are like a tiny stone gravel, some are large pebbles, so they vary a lot. And what it said about this beach was that if the tide was out, then there was sand, but if the tide was in, then you only had a rocky part. So I did understand that it would be a pebble beach leading to a sand beach. But what I didn't realise was previously, when I've been on a sandy beach, I would walk a long, long way along that sandy beach. But when it's pebbles and things, you don't really want to walk on them in bare feet for very long. And when I was on the sand still had some tiny little gravelly stones in. It was okay, it wasn't uncomfortable, but I was paddling in the water, which is just walking in the water's edge. And as I came back out a little bit, I'd be on the sort of gravelly, stony part, and I thought I wouldn't walk a long way because the wet sand wasn't going into dry sand that would be soft on your feet. You were going straight into sort of gravelly little stones. That made me realise that if it isn't a sand beach, you have to manage your expectations. It's not going to be quite the same. I did enjoy walking in the water, but the weather was extremely cold. Now, I expected the water to be cold because I was going in April, and the temperature said it would be about 12 degrees C. But what I didn't realise was the wind would be cold. It was a very windy day, and the wind was icy cold, and the water actually felt, when you initially went into it, it felt cold. But as I was walking along in the wind blowing against me, which was icy cold, I thought, well, actually, that's feeling not, the water is feeling not as cold as the air is feeling. Yeah, so I enjoyed the paddle in the sea, which I haven't done for over a year. So I've done it now. Felt good about that. The town itself had every element of a seaside town that a lot of Brits look for, because it had a beach, it had a pier, it had amusements on the pier. Now, amusements are like slot machines and little push penny machines. It would probably seem weird to people in different countries that you would class that as gambling, and children do this right from a very early age. Part of going to the seaside is going to the amusement and having a play on the machines. There used to be roller penny machines and 2p penny pushes where these little shelves went backwards and forwards, and when you put your 2p in, it might shove some coins down a chute and you might win those. But it also has traditional slot machines, where we used to call them, years and years ago, they used to be called one-arm bandits, because you used to pull down an arm at the side of these machines, and there were rolls inside which went round, and if you got 3 jackpots in a row, you would win the jackpot, and then cash comes out of the bottom. Now, these days, in amusements at the seaside, sometimes it's all for little tickets, which you can then exchange for a fluffy toy or a keyring or something like that. But quite often with the slot machine type, it is for money. Anyway, I didn't film in there when I was there because I was conscious of the fact that, having watched videos of people on cruises, they aren't allowed to film in casinos. Now, amusements aren't really in the same bracket as a casino, but I thought it is kind of gambling and people might object, so I didn't film in there. But I actually went in there and I had a little bag of change, because let's face it, these days we're a tap your card society, certainly in London, for everything. So you just tap it on the I don't know what they're called actually, where you go to pay. There's like a little thing that you tap with your bank card and it automatically pays for it. Something for tourists to London to realise that you can pay for your transport and your food and just about anything in the stores by just tapping your bank card. Yeah, back to the plot. The amusements. I did go in on the pier and I put a very small amount of money in, 10, 20p I think it was. And I won £5. I won the jackpot. I was really chuffed with that. I thought, wow, must be my lucky day. But the amusements is one of the things that is a classic seaside town thing. You have the beach, you have the pier, you have the amusements. Also, opposite the amusements was a crazy golf course. Or actually, it wasn't crazy golf, which is when it's all different sort of objects that you have to manoeuvre your golf ball around. But this was a mini golf course, which just meant it was just a normal holes. There was a windmill and a lighthouse though, so I don't know. But it was called mini golf. Anyway, that's another part of a seafront, a promenade area that's expected as a seaside town. What I did notice, that there wasn't a lot of gift shops along the seafront area. There was a few, but I mean, a lot of seaside towns that would be lined with tourist shops selling things as souvenirs. But yes, when I thought about it, the place itself had all those things, as well as fish and chip shops, which is a traditional thing to eat when you go to the seaside. And it did have seagulls, a lot of seagulls that I'm sure would have dived on you and tried to steal fish and chips out of your hands, which has become a thing that they do these days. So yeah, I spent 2 hours there, and because of the trains, I didn't want to hit rush hour coming back through London, so I spent 2 hours there, which was plenty because the wind was very cold. The town itself was a mix of things, some big chain stores, some small family businesses. So it was a mix. It wasn't a large town centre, but it was on a main train route from London to get there. I didn't have to change trains. I could get there in 1 hour 20 minutes all the way, which was a good thing. I enjoyed my time there, but I missed London, and it made me think and appreciate London more. But my life lesson from it was that even though I'd really wanted to go to the seaside, I missed home, and that maybe I should look more around London for things to do that I don't have in the immediate vicinity of where I live. Because London does have a lot of aspects to it. It has a lot of different areas, all with their own character, apart from the main central bit with all the tourist attraction bits. So that's something I intend to explore in future videos. And life lesson I learnt this week is, just because you're on vacation, even with the best will in the world, doesn't mean you're going to lose a bit of weight. Actually, it means you put a lot on. I think the freedom to eat whenever I felt like it and whatever I felt like got the better of me this week, because I've actually put on some weight when I was thinking at the beginning of this vacation I would use it to lose some weight because I wouldn't have the stress from work. I wouldn't have the restriction of what I could eat at work throughout the working day as much as when I'm at home or near home and could take a pack up, take a picnic with me to wherever I wanted to go. So I have another week to go of my staycation, and I do intend to try and monitor that more and adjust my eating. I very easily slip into sugary treats, very easily, and that's a lifelong thing. So I'm going to try and be good this week. So that was a lesson for me. So I'm going to be trying to be better at that this week. But it has been a happy week. It has emotionally, psychologically, however you want to think about it. I've not been working. I haven't had the stress of decisions and pressures of work, and it has been delightful. It has been lovely. I have woken up every morning without an alarm clock. Instead of waking up at 5 o'clock every morning, I've tended to wake naturally between about 6:15 and 7 o'clock, and that means my body's had enough sleep and it's quite happy to get up and get on with the day. So I've enjoyed that, and I have avoided the commuting crush because I don't want to be getting on trains or buses to go anywhere when there are people busy trying to get to work and it's very, very full. Now, that doesn't mean if I was in central London, the buses and the trains are still fairly full because they're full of tourists. So, you lose one, you get the other. But there is a different atmosphere to that because obviously those people are very excited about being in a new place and visiting things, and generally the atmosphere is happier, I think, during the day. I spent some of this week trying to work on my backlog of content, which has been successful. I've just put out, I put out yesterday Street Art 16, and I have 17, 18, 19 and 20 already in a backlog. And that's because I specifically went to different areas of London where I knew there was more street art, and photographed it, videoed it, whatever. Some of my street art videos include pieces that I have found in like 4 or 5 different areas of London because I visited an area that, to give you an idea, I can be on a train travelling through areas of London and see graffiti from the train. And this is the kind of graffiti which is lettering or just coloured patterns. And if I can see it from the train, I think that's a good sign. That means street artists are active in that area. I might get off at the next station and look around the station area to see if I can find any street art. Sometimes that works, sometimes that doesn't. The other day I went to 4 different areas and I found 1 piece in one area, 2 pieces in another, 1 piece in another. So it takes a lot to build up the content to a street art short. Sometimes I can get 10 good pieces of street art. And when I say good pieces, for me, that's if it's a large piece of work, which I've had to walk along and sort of, in the edit, it will be a scroll along, so that it takes maybe 7 seconds to do that. My average I do is 5 seconds per piece of street art. But if there's a lot of those large ones, then it's bigger pieces of clips to fit into the content. But yeah, sometimes it can take a lot to find enough. And I just keep the folder open and add to it as I go along. And I've found 2 areas now in London where things are painted over and in quite a short space of time, so they need revisiting. But I needed to get some backlog so that on my weekend one of my 2 days isn't just hunting down street art. And as a person, I like paintings and art, whatever form that may take. And I have enjoyed exploring areas and finding the street art and appreciating all the different types that there is around London. So it's been a good week for getting a backlog of content of that so that I can keep rolling them out. I used to roll them out once a week, and at the moment I'm rolling them out twice a week. So it will just depend how full that final folder is, whether I go back to once a week or not. When I go filming street art, if I go to an area and there isn't what's expected, because obviously if I do any research, they can be painted over, and not just by other artists. They can be painted over by people who don't like street art, like the railways seem to be painting over street art that's under bridges at the moment, and I don't understand why, but they do. And they'll just cover it in black paint. Or like a building site where there's construction going on, they put up a hoarding around the outside of that, like a wooden flatboard fence, and street artists will come along and put amazing pictures on it, and then the construction company would just paint over it. And it's like, why? I don't understand. It was there and making people happy, and you only put that hoarding around the place until you finish your construction, then you take it down and throw it away, or recycle it. But you know what I mean. It's not there for a purpose, and the outside of it is just boring, and it looked better with pictures on it, basically. But yeah, it's one of those things. I guess some companies have a policy that they don't allow it, and there you go. So sometimes it's really nice when you see an old piece of street art that's clearly faded and been there years and years, because you know that it's been allowed to stay there. So yeah, a positive from my week so far off work has been I am very chilled. Even when I've planned days out and gone different places and done different things, I feel very relaxed. If I stop and think about it, because I'm not thinking and worrying about work at all, and I'm just enjoying life, doing whatever I feel like. So that's very positive. It shows how good vacations are for people, even when you don't board a plane and go to, a snowy mountain or a sunny beach. They're still really good for you, because you get to unwind to this kind of degree. So yeah, really happy with that. I think it will be good when I do the podcast the week after I've gone, because I put these out on a Monday. When I do the podcast when I've gone back to work for a week, it will be really good to reflect on how differently I felt, and if I've been able to maintain a certain amount of happy, which I will endeavour to do, because there's always this thing when you go back from a vacation that the blues kick in, and there's an adjustment period. There's always a heavy backlog of work that you've got to catch up on and things like that. But never let that stop you taking those vacation days and having a break, even if you don't really do a lot. Just be you. Just get up in the morning and feel like, what shall I do today? I think I had one day like that last week. I will be having more days like that in the coming week, where I will just sort of decide on the fly where I'm going, what I'm doing. Okay, well, I wish you a very happy week. If you've had any life lessons yourself this week, please comment below. I'd love to hear about them. Thank you very much for listening. Please like, comment, subscribe, share with a friend, and come back next time. Bye for now.